Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Okay, friends, the meaning of that chant, Namo Buddhaya, of course it means homage to the Buddha. But there are two meanings to the word Buddha. Of course, the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, is a historical Buddha that people normally refer to as, the enlightened one, and he taught the Dhamma. But on another level, the Buddha refers as not a person, which is like a title, like a doctor, right? Say somebody's so and so is a surgeon, or it's a specialty. So the word Buddha actually means wisdom, one who's awake. Comes from the word buddhi, which means a higher or spiritual intelligence. And so Buddha is one who simply had reawakened that pure wisdom, that ancient wisdom of the universe, and actualized it. So on another level, you can see the word. Sometimes it's called the inner Buddha. So there's the external Buddha and the internal buddhi, or the origin of the Buddha's wisdom. And so, Namo Buddhaya, when we chant that as meditation or so, we're referencing the second aspect. The vibration of Buddhaya, or the vibration of wisdom, which is basically the vibration of pure awareness. That's, within every being. That's, even the essence of consciousness. So, I wanted to talk about the essential characteristics that kind of distinguish the teachings of the Buddha from a lot of other types of spiritual teachings and so on, that again emphasize the wisdom. And there's 3 levels of wisdom in the Dhamma. And the first is intellectual wisdom. It means the only way we learn anything is by hearing talks or hearing lectures or reading books, right? That's the way you learn anything in life, isn't it? Going to school, hearing what the teachers taught, reading the books, studying. That's the way we learn anything. So it's the same with Dhamma, for the most part. You come across a teaching of the Buddha on somebody's coffee table. What's this? Oh, wow. So, so there's the intellectual wisdom, which you get by hearing Dhamma talks and reading. But then there's another level called the wisdom through reflection. You have to reflect on that, what you've heard and read. That means you have to think about it. Because a lot of times you read or hear things and it goes out one ear and out the other, and 10 minutes later somebody says, what was the talk about? They might have forgotten already. Because their mind wasn't concentrated. So when important words were being taught, either they were thinking about their date the next weekend, or they were half asleep, or whatever. Or they're brooding over somebody who insulted them and they missed a few, important words. So when you hear the Dhamma, you have to really listen with a concentrated mind so that it can sort of penetrate a little deeper. So anyway, the second level of wisdom is you reflect on what you've heard. So you hear about, let's say, the law of karma. Oh, karma, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. But a lot of people really don't think about it very deeply. So you reflect back on it, and you see all the actions that you did since you were a child, telling lies or using bad language, or even when you're maybe a teenager, getting drunk and doing foolish things, and all these things follow you around, even experiencing the effects of our unskillful actions years later, many times over. So you reflect on that. There's consequences of our actions, right? And also the good qualities that you did, experiencing the pleasant results of helping a little old lady across the street. You hear examples of that all the time, right? People helping people, and then they get rewarded. They didn't even ask for it, and then somebody gives them a huge tip or whatever it is. Like the homeless guy who gave his last $10 for for a gallon of gas for somebody who was stranded on the road, and that person raised $300,000 on crowdfunding to buy this guy a house. So, but anyway, okay. So you reflect on the teaching, or you may hear about impermanence. Oh, impermanence, But then you got to contemplate it at a deeper level, and it starts to make more meaning. And then finally, there's what is called the Bhavana Mayapanya, or the realizations, the opening of the mind to get a glimpse of a non-verbal type of understanding of what you previously have read about or heard or even reflected. So each of those is a kind of a deeper level of wisdom. So the insight meditation is aimed at both the second and the third level of wisdom. So when you meditate, you can contemplate. You're cultivating mindfulness and wisdom. Then you start to observe impermanence, how quickly things are changing, and you observe conditioning, how we're just a bunch of conditioned habits reacting to this and that, and even suffering, the idea of suffering. It's not just getting broken bones or having Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, but it's the suffering of the mind, in the various painful mental states of not getting what we want, getting what we don't want, getting frustrated, getting bugged and irritated by things people do and see, just generally, people are in a state of confusion about what life is. Just feel the whole world is, coming in on their head, and they're suffering mentally. So we already mentioned that before. So anyway, the insights that you get out of practicing Vipassana meditation leads to those kind of deeper realizations. But the characteristics, the Buddhist teachings of wisdom are based upon what are called the three characteristics of all phenomena. And that is, to use the Pali terms that many of you probably have heard, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, or impermanence, suffering, and no self. So that all the conditioned Dhammas, it means everything of the material world, it includes this physical body as well as the earth and everything on the earth, the material world, and even our mental world, our feelings, perceptions, memory, will, volition, even the ego consciousness. These are constantly in a state of change and flux, and things don't last, even a nanosecond. We're talking about on a kind of like a molecular level, things are changing. But everything, so basically it's that understanding that everything is constantly changing. And you can observe this in meditation when your sensations in the body are constantly changing, and then your thoughts and moods are constantly changing. You can be kind of happy 1 minute, and then a couple of minutes later you can be kind of down in the dumps, and then some time later again. So our moods and everything is constantly changing due to the changing conditions, because everything else changes, everything affects us. And nothing is stable. So that's why we try to cling and stop impermanence. And that's when we suffer, by not allowing things to change. And so, when you get sick, why did I get sick? I've been doing all these things, because that's the nature. This body is the nature to get sick, to get diseased, to get old, and eventually death. And a lot of people don't like to think about the death, because they think it's distasteful, or it reminds them of what's around the corner, and they want to try to avoid it. So that's why people are getting cosmetic surgeries, and they want to delay the advent of decaying and old age, to hide in an illusion. But then it comes crumbling down. There's only a certain amount of facelifts, nose jobs, tummy tucks you can do, when you start reaching 80 years old or so. But anyway, so this, and so people suffer because of that change. They don't want things to change. And there's actually what are called the 5 reflections. The Buddha said these are 5 things that the lay person, as well as monks and nuns, every person should reflect on every day. That is, I'm in nature to get sick. I've not gone beyond the potential for getting sick. I'm of the nature to get diseased. I have not gone beyond disease. I'm of the nature to get old and death, aging and death. I have not gone beyond aging and death. And everything dear and delightful to me will change and vanish. And the fifth one is, everyone is the owner of their karma, the architect of their karma, born of their karma. Everything that they do, good or bad, they'll be the heir of their actions. And so this is also part of that reflection on the Dhamma, to help to see the reality and truth of those things. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's morbid to think. What do you want to think about that? Just think about wine and parties, super yachts, or whatever. But anyway, so we think about those things because those things affect us every single day. But yet people, they like to create and live in an illusion that that those things don't exist. Anyway, so the contemplation of impermanence and suffering and the no-self. We've talked about that a little bit. We're going to go into it more even later, about the idea of no-self. But the fact that there's no permanent entity here that actually owns or controls anything. Even your own mind, you don't really own it or control it. Although we think we do, but that is also kind of an illusion. Now we can manage it to a certain extent, but we don't know what is deep, deep in our unconscious mind. And no matter what you try to do, we don't know when a big lump of karma is going to explode like a volcano into the life and cause us some kind of suffering. So that is sort of one of the meanings of the no-self. That even this body. And the Buddha gave a very nice little description. He said, if this body was yourself, if you were the owner of this body, you should be able to say, body, don't get sick. Can you do that? Or body, don't get a disease. Or body, never grow old. Or body, don't die. Can you do that? You can have a wishful thinking that you're not, but, in order to say you're the owner of anything, you should have absolute control over that. But people are not. People are not even in control of their bank accounts or their stock market, because that could also be wiped out in a flash due to so many things you already know about. And this body, our relatives, our loved ones, and everything else. So these are all things that are aspects of contemplation about impermanence, suffering, and no self. Of course, everybody generally kind of understands that. But I wanted to go into even a deeper level of the meaning of impermanence. Now, if you talk about impermanence to the average person, let's say you knock over a glass of milk on a table and it spills all over and the glass breaks and you say, impermanent, anicca. Or even if somebody dies, you say, impermanence, anicca. Or an old tree dies and falls down, anicca. So that's what's called external impermanence. And actually in the Dhamma, it's very interesting. The Dhamma, is very profound. And there's always two aspects of Dhamma. There's external Dhamma, or the external realities, and then there's the internal realities. Like the truth of suffering in the external world, but in the internal world on a subtler level, there's the internal world of suffering and impermanence. So, and coming to this body, because actually part of Dhamma contemplation, or mindfulness of the body, we've already talked about being mindful of the postures, mindful of your movements, mindfulness of breathing. All of these helps to get the attention kind of to the surface of the body. So if you want to climb a mountain, what's the first thing you got to do? You have to get to the base of the mountain, right? So you have to arrive at the base of the mountain. Then you start climbing up. So we're talking about climbing the mountain of wisdom. And so we have to arrive at the base of the mountain. That means the body. It means the present moment. Because that's the entry point, at least for most people, for developing that kind of, insights. But what we've been doing so far is trying to get our attention, at least, reel it in like reeling in a fish, because our mind is always swimming away. We have to reel it back. Ah, yes, sitting, bring it back. Thinking, let go of the thoughts, come back. Pain, let go of the thought, pain, come back to the present moment. You sleep, you wake up, come back to the present moment. So just feeling the sort of the external body. And then the next phase is getting under the skin to feel the internal body. Now, when we see the external body, we might not see impermanence is not really that clear until you reach 40 years old, right? Then that first gray hair comes in, or your eyes start to, going bad. So only over a period of 5 or 10 years you gradually see there's subtle changes going on, right? Skin starting to get more wrinkly and so on. But under the skin, impermanence and change is going on all the time. And that's why the next level of mindfulness of the body, once you've contemplated the external body, is getting under the skin to feel the vibrational body, or what are called the 4 elements. The body is just comprised of the 4 elements that are constantly changing. But I like to call it the vibrational body. The vibrations and sensations that the body is basically comprised of. And we see this body as being something solid when we look at it from the outside. But any biologist or scientist will tell you that the body is just a constant changing process. This body is made up of billions of cells. And cells are made up of what? I don't know how many in each cell, but let's say, lots of molecules. And molecules are even made up of what? Atoms. Atoms are made up of what? Electrons. Electrons. Electricity. Einstein's theory of relativity. That this body is essentially, when you break it down, just electricity. There's a number of electrons going around an atom that determines what kind of material properties it's going to have. And then when you pack millions of atoms together, you get a molecule. Millions of molecules together, you get a cell. Millions of cells, and then you wind up with something that looks and feels solid. But when you dissect it and break it down, Basically, it's just energy. It's constantly changing. And that's, quantum theory. And even scientists recognize that, but they never really talk about that in terms of practical application and so on. And so, it is said that every cell in the body, the oldest living cells in the body live only a maximum of 7 years. That all these billions of cells in this body would have changed, in 7 years. So you have a totally new body. So if you're 49 years old, you've had 7 bodies already. So that's the meaning of change and impermanence. Is underneath the skin, this process is constantly going on, but we never see it. And so that's the next stage of vipassana, or the first stage of developing deeper insight into impermanence is learning to feel the body as just a mass of changing, sensations, and basically kind of just energy sensations. And that's one of the categories of mindfulness of the body, seeing the body as just 4 elements. In this body there's earth element, fire element, water element, heat element, and even space element. But these elements, essentially what they are just vibrations. I like to call them earth vibration, water vibration, heat vibration, movement vibration. Because that's what you feel. When you feel the body, that's what you're feeling. The sensation of hardness or solidity, the earth element. When you're feeling some heat, the heat element. When you're feeling movement, the air element moving. Or even the water element, you've got tears coming down or sweat. And so you train yourself to see the body as, it's just 4 elements. But then even the elements can be broken down into, they're just, again, cells, molecules, atoms, and electricity. And you can actually feel that when you contemplate. And so that can actually be taken up as an actual contemplation in the vipassana. Again, that's a kind of that second level of wisdom, the wisdom of reflection. And it's the scientific process that I mentioned before. That's what the Buddha did. He sat down and he looked down through the microscope, and that's what he felt. The body is just a mass of changing energy vibrations. And so once you've gotten some mindfulness and concentration and got centered in the body, again, that's the next step, so to speak. People are asking, what should I do next? Watching the breath. Okay. What's next is you go into the body. Having got centered in the body, then you actually go deeper into it. And seeing how every square inch of the body is just nothing but change in vibration. And so it breaks down the idea of this sort of solid body. Of course, this is occurring within the mind. So, and I've already been, hinting or suggesting to try to feel the vibrations in the body, and especially after yoga, you can feel the kind of pulsations and other little sensations, and just feel all those vibrations and so on. But, when you develop enough mindfulness and concentration, then actually it can occur that way in the mind, or you can be meditating and contemplating that, but at a certain point the feeling of the hard, solid feeling in the body may actually kind of just start dissolving. And you can actually get to a point where you feel like you don't even have a body anymore. There's just sensations that are kind of moving around, but the idea or the shape of a solid body dissolve. And that's a very liberating experience, because all the pains that would have been in it also disappear. But anyway, that's just an example of that's the direct kind of meditation wisdom, that third level of wisdom, where the mind opens up and actually transforms itself into the wisdom. It assumes that wisdom, instead of just talking about impermanence or talking about no self. The mind actually transforms in that, and you actually experience those momentary experiences. So, because that's what we're going to, kind of be doing, the next meditation or so, going through that. But it depends on, each person. It depends on each person's level of mindfulness and concentration. But anyway, that's the next meaning of impermanence. First, you see how all the sensations in the body are constantly changing, but then also your thoughts and reactions, that everything is changing. And again, as I mentioned before, that's the start of real vipassana meditation, is directly tuning into the impermanence, the flow of impermanence. But it starts with the body, then you kind of experience that the sensations, and the thoughts, and the perceptions that go with it. And you can also, when you're contemplating impermanence, you can see how when the mind tries to stop that impermanence, that suffering arises, immediately when you try to stop that change, or you try to resist it by saying, I don't like it, I want to get away from it, or I want to stop it and keep it. Like say, okay, you might be sitting very comfortably, be attached to that comfortable feeling, then all of a sudden the pain comes up. And then you can immediately see how the mind, doesn't want to let go of that comfortable feeling, and now is being tormented by, some painful feeling. In the body as well as the mind, you might be experiencing some mental comfort also, and then something triggers off some unpleasant mental experience, and then you you don't want to accept that change, you resist it, so you struggle. So actually vipassana meditation is opening up to the flow of impermanence and to the flow of sensations, and basically everything is just a sensation. This is also a very interesting and profound aspect of wisdom. That all we can directly experience through the senses are vibrations. Take for example now, just for a little experiment, okay? Just close your eyes now. Just gently close the eyes and just focus where your buttocks press the seat. Now, what do you actually feel there? Can anybody say what they felt? Did you feel your buttocks?
Pressure.
Right.
Pressure.
So that's what you actually feel, but even that is just a vibration. So you even break it down further. What you feel is a vibration of a certain intensity, density, and so on. Through the nervous system, that's right. The same way you feel the clothing touching your skin. That's just friction of the clothes rubbing against the skin, but it produces a vibration. But then we identify that vibration as being a certain object. But that's your mind thinking. That's not the direct experience. So Vipassana meditation is actually aimed at getting to the actual raw, original experience of what is coming through the senses, not what our mind is creating from. And that necessitates, or having developed a certain level of mindfulness and awareness. But that's part of the contemplation. So next time you're meditating and you're feeling different parts of the body, just think, oh, it's this vibration. Right? When you say your fingers are touching together, it's just vibrations. The memory is remembering this particular vibration belongs to my fingers, or this particular vibration is my toe, or this particular vibration is the clothing rubbing on my shoulder, or this particular vibration is a bellyache, or something in your eye. And so it becomes very interesting when you start cultivating this type of understanding. Because at a certain point, then when that understanding is cultivated, then it can lead to that actual momentary experience where the body is actually experienced as just a bag of empty vibrations. Because that is created in the mind. And that's the meaning, that the mind creates everything. You're creating the world out of just vibrations. It's the mind that's creating the idea of the world of objects and myself within those objects, and the past and future related to those objects. It's all created within the mental process. And that's one of the meanings of the Sanskrit word maya, things are illusion, or also of self. But hope I'm not speaking over your heads here, but I just realized that the retreat's one day shorter than I thought it was. Time is slipping away. So this idea of vibrations can be not only the body, but it also includes sounds and smells and tastes and even our thoughts. So when you hear a sound, normally you say, I'm hearing a bird, I'm hearing the teacher talking, I'm hearing a door slamming. No, you're imagining those things. What you're hearing is sound vibrations, right? But normally we don't think that way. We think we're hearing an object. Now, of course, there is an object, we'll give you that. There is an object, but again, it's the way our mind is developing that, producing that within the mind, and then we get attached to it. And that's why I've mentioned several times, when you hear sounds, just make a note of hearing. Don't say, oh, that person's talking. No, it's just hearing. Or smelling. Maybe somebody lets some bad air out the backside, and you're sitting there meditating nicely, and all of a sudden then you start projecting, who did that? It's just smelling. Then you have no problem. Or, some taste comes into your mouth, it's just tasting. Seeing also. When you look up here, all you're seeing, all that's coming through your eye is color in a certain shape. that strikes the retina. Any eye doctor can tell you that. And the mind is what creates the image out of it, and then gives meaning to that image from your past experiences, and then affects your mind with either attachment, aversion, whatever. And so this is the way you contemplate the Dhamma. This is vipassana contemplation that you can use as first intellectually, even while you're sitting there, you can kind of talk yourself through that. Oh, it sounds reasonable. Oh, yeah, cool. And so it works like that. But if you don't have anything to think about, the mind just starts thinking about, sports and kings and queens and Donald Trump and all this other rubbish. Excuse me. But, worldly thought. So you have to have some amount of Dhamma knowledge as a repertoire in your mind so that you have something to then direct your attention to. That's called directed meditation. And that's also part of the second factor of enlightenment, investigation of Dhamma, uses this type of analytic investigation, which might start as intellectual concepts, but then as you hold your attention there, you start to understand the meanings of that. And then at some point down the road, when the conditions are right, you might have the opening of the mind into intuitive insights. So that's really the practice of vipassana meditation follows that development. I'm just saying that there, that because there should never be a dull moment. There should never be a time when you're sitting there, what's next one? Or go to sleep. You go to sleep because you have nothing good to think about. Your mind gets tired of hearing all the same old rubbish going through your mind. So it wants to turn off that. Or, it just gets, again, carried away by unprofitable or unnecessary type of guilt, worry, remorse, and fear type of greed and hatred types of thoughts and emotions. So you give it something exciting to think about, then it gets excited. Not excited in a, kind of a real excited way, but it gets an interest. And actually, it's the third factor of enlightenment, the enlightenment factor of joy, or maybe it's the fourth one. Anyway. It means interest. You get interested in the topic because you're starting to see some stuff that you hadn't understood before. So again, it's like the scientific experiment. The scientist. When he starts to do his experiment, he gets excited and he starts to put two and two together, and he sees something new happening, and like he's on the track now to find a cure for some disease, right? And so he's to stay up. He never don't get tired because he wants to see what's around the next corner. So in vipassana meditation, there's always something new coming around the corner in terms of body sensations, even sounds. We don't know what's going to occur. That's the thing. We never know what is going to happen around us. We could start a meditation, right, and it would be perfectly quiet, hardly anything, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, a bunch of birds starts chirping, or frogs start croaking, or gunshots may go off. We can't control that. But it definitely affects our mind. And then we can, what's the Dhamma got to say about this? All right, just hearing. Yeah, it's just hearing, right? There's no gunshots, it's just hearing, it's just sound vibration. So don't worry about the gunshots till a bullet comes through the window. It's Bhante in the head. So it's very interesting once you start to, contemplate the Dhamma. It becomes very interesting. The whole body and mind becomes your focus. But again, you first need to get some level of centeredness and calmness of mind, otherwise the mind can get too excited and get off balance also. So that's why we usually spend the first couple of days trying to get some initial centeredness and concentration. And also concentration, there's different meanings of the word concentration. Now if I just say out there, okay, concentration, or your ordinary meaning of it, most people would think it means just focusing on one object and just trying to focus on that and kind of forget about everything else. Is that kind of an idea most people have about concentration? Is it?
Yes.
Yes, no, maybe so. Or like, a cat focused on a mouse, really concentrated. Now that is one form of concentration, but it's not necessarily the form of concentration that we use in Vipassana meditation. I like to call it floating concentration. It means it comes from the word one-pointedness, in the moment. So whatever arising in the moment, you're aware of that. But then that thing vanishes, and then there's something else arising, and the mind is aware of that. And then that vanishes, and then there's something else arising, and the mind is basically in the present moment. So when the mind comes to rest in the present moment, then that's a state of concentration. That means it's not being distracted by the hindrances. The hindrances have been suppressed, and the mind is resting in the present moment. That's the ekagata, mind gone to one. It's not one object, it means one, the present moment. It's resting in the present moment. And things are arising and vanishing, but the mind is not moving. Objects are arising and vanishing, but awareness is not. Is resting there in the moment. So that is what's called vipassana concentration, as opposed to shamatha concentration. This form of concentration is vipassana concentration, sometimes called vipassana jhana. And that's the kind of concentration where we try to cultivate, of course, in vipassana meditation. So, anyway, I think that might be enough for this Dhamma talk. And again, if you have any questions about any of that, you can write them down for this evening's questions and answers session.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Again, just taking off from where I left off there, let's just for a moment just kind of straighten up the body and take a couple of deep breaths, come back to ground zero, buttocks pressing the seat to that one point. Okay, now mindfully, slowly stand up and try to be aware of the moment-to-moment change in bodily movements. Be aware of the intention before moving any part of the body. See, you missed at least 300 intentions. You're moving so quickly. Just gently close the eyes, feel your feet pressing the floor. Now along those lines that I was talking about in the Dhamma talk, we're going to do what's called a body scan awareness, moving the attention from the feet up to the top of the head in a slow way, trying to feel some sensation or vibration in all the different parts of the body, cultivating this idea that the body is just continual, massive, changing vibration, energy vibration. So it involves also developing mindfulness and concentration, ability to hold your attention on one part of the body for a period of time without losing it. That the mindfulness is the alertness to notice little sensations within that area of concentration, little vibrations, sensations, pulsation, prickling sensation, aches or pains. But first of all, just to take a few deep, slow breaths to oxygenate the blood. After breathing in, hold the air in the lungs in 4, 5, or 6 seconds if you can. Feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath. Just one note of caution. When you're doing a long-standing awareness, people with weak circulation or so on, they get faint and tend to or pass out or fall down. So if you, while doing this exercise, if you start to feel faint or dizzy, and squat down to the ground until that sensation passes off. continue in a sitting position or stand back up. Okay, so after the next out breath, let go of the deep breathing. Don't try to control the breath any longer. And bring your total attention down to feel the feet pressing the floor. Sort of feel the heels, the arches, and the toes of the feet. Just feel them different sensations. Sensations of pressure, hardness, pulsation. Just understand that those are just sensations, cells interacting, producing friction. The earth element of the floor, the earth element of the bone, the flesh of the feet. Interacting, producing sensation. Intellectual wisdom. So if you can notice some different toes, sensation, different toes. Feet. Okay, now let the awareness kind of move up into the lower leg. It's like the awareness riding up on an elevator. To feel the calf muscle and the shin bone, the lower leg. You feel any sensation on the surface, like the clothes touching the skin, and especially feel something inside, muscle tissue, bone. Pulse of blood, or anything else. Turn up the power of the mental microscope. And then let the awareness move up to feel the knee, the hard bone of the kneecap, the soft flesh in the back of the knee. Pain. Now moving the awareness up into the upper leg, the thick flesh of the thigh. Just feel the clothing touching the outer skin. Underneath the skin. May not be a clear sensation, but kind of a vague sensation. Especially be alert to how quickly certain sensations just arise and vanish. pulse of blood that rises and vanishes very quickly. Whether sensations might seem to last, be more vague. You now move the attention up to feel the buttock. And we sat for an hour pressing the buttocks on the seat. There should be lots of sensation. Buttock. Then expanding that to include, feel the whole pelvic groin area. Now move the attention to the fingers, thumbs and fingers, and palms of the hand. Lots of sensations, pulsations, warmth, the heat element, the earth element. Water vibration, pulse of blood. Air element. The hands. Allow the awareness to move up into the lower arm, forearm. You can feel where the wind of the fan touches the skin of the arm. Pulse in those large forearm arteries. Vibration. And moving up to the elbows. Elbow. And then up into the upper arm, the biceps. Now let the awareness move into the center of the body. Feel the stomach, the abdomen and stomach area. Clothing rubbing on the skin. Stomach pain, abdominal pain, gurgling. Movement from the breathing. The wind element. The wind vibration. And then moving up to the chest. See if you can feel the heart beating in the chest. Or any chest pain. Okay, now move the attention to your back, starting in the lower back. Feel the back muscles. Imagine the spinal cord going up the center of the back. Feel where the clothing rubs the skin of the back. Back pain, prickling sensation. Gradually move the awareness upwards towards the shoulders, shoulder blade. Feel the heat, sensation of heat in the back. Feel the top of the shoulder. Also feel the base of the neck, the collarbone area. Take a deep, slow breath in the upper lobes to feel it. Bring blood and awareness in the upper, toward the base of the neck. Feel that movement. Now feel the neck, the outer neck. inside, you feel the throat. There's lots of traffic up and down the neck and throat. Blood, air, food, water, electrical energy. It's the superhighway, connects the brain and head to the lower body. So be aware of any urge to cough, scratchy sensations to cough or swallow. Now move the attention to feel your lower jaw. You feel the gums and the teeth in the lower jaw. The tongue laying in the mouth. And move the attention out to feel the point of the chin. Feel the lips touching together, and dryness or moistness. Again, feel the the nose. Feel the nose. The outer nose. Inside the nostril. You might take a couple of deep, slow breaths to feel the air moving through the nostrils. You might feel a cool sensation as the air goes into the nostrils and lungs, a warm sensation as it comes out. Now feel the ears, the outer ears. You might feel a magnetized sensation on the outside of the ear. The touch of the wind against the ear. inside the ear. If you listen very closely, you might hear the inner sound, like a high-pitched, shrill sound. In the brainwave vibrations, electrical energy of the brain. And feel the skin of the face, many little prickling sensations. The tightness of skin across the face, forehead. And again, try to feel the top of the head. The hair comes out of the scalp. And now from that point at the top of the head, let the awareness spread back out over the body. Feel the outline of the standing body. Just establish whole body awareness. As if you were kind of standing 6 inches behind, kind of just watching the body standing there. Not as a visual, but as massive sensation. Feeling vibrations from all those different places. The feet, the hands, the head, and all points in between. To open up to that organic aliveness in the whole body, pulsating, vibrating. And it's cultivating that understanding. It's just energy vibration. Especially be alert to how quickly certain sensations pop out of the blue, arise and vanish. Prickling sensation, body movement, pulsation, muscle jerk. The moment this body was born, conceived, to the moment of death, this body is a continual flux of change. never staying the same for 2 moments. Undergoing the process of growth, change, decay, and eventually death. So many different factors can disturb the functioning of this body. It's the real you. This body is the real home. It's the real life. It's a living process. We say we live somewhere, but really life is happening under the skin. External life, internal life. External impermanence, internal impermanence. And even your thoughts are constantly changing. Thoughts, perception, moods. Just cultivate that idea of impermanence, continuous change. The internal world changing, the external world changing. Nobody owns it. Nobody controls it. Just obeying the laws of nature. Whenever you're ready, if you're getting tired of standing, your feet are paining, you can mindfully sit back down. Or actually, maybe before sitting down, just do 1 or 2 stretches. Take a couple of deep, slow breaths. Next in breath, arms over the head, interlock the fingers, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch back. Out. 3 times. Increase the finger, out breath. Next in breath, push up on the toes, stretch up. Out. Just feel that increased vibration. Side bending using one arm at a time. In breath, raise the left arm. Out breath, bend over the right side. In. Out. Out breath. In breath. Be alert for how quickly certain sensations arise and vanish, especially prickling sensation, stinging sensation. And the head turning. In breath, head to the right. breath lift. Now, mindfully, without breaking your awareness, sit back down. Without getting distracted, see how quickly you can come back inside. Feel the body grounded to the floor. Just spend this next period continuing to cultivate. If you want to give yourself your own kind of body scan from the sitting position, starting with your feet, gradually working your way up through all the different parts of the body to the top. You can do that. Or just to try to maintain that outline of the sitting body, the mind's eye. Continue to observe that flow of impermanence, sensations just randomly arising and vanishing. First get connected to the breathing. All those sensations occurring within this breathing body, in and around and through. Sensations arising and vanishing. The feet, the hand, the head, all points in between. Kind of sensations are almost infinite. You can experience. sensations of the in-breathing, rising and vanishing. Sensations of the out-breathing, arising and vanishing. Itches or prickling sensations, arise and vanish. Body movement, arise and vanish. Develop concentration and mindfulness. The concentration, the ability to hold the attention on the outline of the body or the breathing inside. The mindfulness, alertness to all the other sensations or thoughts coming and going.